crazy thing.
We are now recording and everyone from the lobby is in the meeting.
Thank you, Heidi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Crofts and I'm the chair of this meeting of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. I think someone has their microphone on, which is causing feedback. So if everyone can turn your microphone off or mute it, that would be really helpful. Hello? Problem solved. Thank you very much. Yes, I mentioned, welcome everyone to the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel of Wednesday, the 17th of May, 2023. We've got a number of items to consider today. Before I start with the formal part of the meeting, I just want to provide a short background about the local planning panel and how we operate. Since 2018, the state government has made local planning panels mandatory for all Sydney councils and Wollongong Council. The aim of the panels are to provide an increased level of accountability and ensure an independent oversight of certain development applications and assessments, hopefully to lead to better planning outcomes. There's a number of statutory rules that govern the panel's operations through a code of conduct and operational procedures, and they are available on via council's website and also this relevant state government website. The way the process works is that council officers assess development applications pretty well as normal and then report to the local planning panel. An independent determination of the application is then made by the panel. The panel can also, in certain circumstances, review planning proposals and make an independent recommendation to the panel. One of the things that's important to note is that the panel doesn't set policy, but works within the legal framework and policy set by the state government, the council and the courts. So essentially we administer the law as far as planning is concerned, we don't make it. The panel itself consists of 4 members, chairperson, myself, a community member, in this case that's Frank Bush, and 2 independent expert members, which is Jason Parika and also Brian Kirk for this meeting. The community members are representing the local community, but doesn't necessarily need to be an expert in a particular field. The way the meetings operate is that the panel members independently do on-site inspections that are usually held from within the public realm rather than on private property. We hold a public panel meeting, which is where we're at the moment, where we can hear interested people and groups making submissions about the development proposal. We then hold a closed panel session, which is being held after this meeting, and then the council would make a public announcement of the determination. So the panel itself receives a written report as well as access to supporting documents and all the submissions from the council, and we then read through that material to help us make our assessment and determination of an application. Some other broad information about the panels. The panel meetings are normally held twice a month, i.e. once a fortnight, depending on relevant applications being needed to be assessed. And the panel public meetings are currently held via teleconferencing rather than in person. I think we've pretty well gone through all the basic information about the panel. So now I'd like to move on to the formal part of the panel meeting. To commence the meeting, I'd like to make an acknowledgement of country. It's a sign of respect. The Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel acknowledges the traditional custodians of these lands upon which we gather and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. I do note that panel members, because we're meeting virtually, are often in the on the traditional lands of a number of the First Nations people. Apologies and declarations of interest. I don't believe we have received any apologies, and the panel members have lodged declarations saying that they have no conflicts of interest in relation to any of the items. Can I just confirm that from council, please?
That is correct.
Thank you very much, Heidi. The minutes of the previous meeting are attached to the published papers that are available on council's website. I have a recommendation that the panel note that the minutes of the panel meeting held on the 19th of April 2023 were adopted by the chairperson and have been posted on the website, council's website, that is. That now brings us to the first item on the agenda, which is item 4.1, DIGA 2022/5096, 29 to 37 Doboid Road, Balgowlah Heights, which is the construction of a mixed-use development comprising retail and co-living housing over part basement parking. Now we have three speakers who are objectors on my running sheet, as well as a representative of the applicant. Is that correct according to your current running sheet, Heidi?
That is correct.
Thank you very much. The way that I would like to proceed is that we will hear a presentation from each of the objectors. That will be followed by an opportunity for the applicant to speak, and then I'll open up for any questions or points of clarification from the panel members present. Can I just provide some advice to people? We'd like to keep your presentations to 3 minutes maximum. My advice to you is to just concentrate on the points you think are very important, not reread your entire submission. We've had the opportunity of reading your submission, and this is your opportunity really to emphasise those things that the panel members need to take on board when determining the application. And I think someone's just turned their microphone back on. If they could turn it off, please, because there's a little bit of an echo. Thank you. So taking the speakers in order of my running sheet here in front of me, the first speaker, and there's still someone with a microphone turned on that's causing echoing. If they could just mute it, that would be very helpful. That's great, thank you. Greg O'Toole, are you online, please, Greg? Oh, yes, I can see you. So we're in your hands, Greg. We've got a maximum of 3 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you.
Can everyone hear?
Perfect, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank all for the opportunity to speak. I live in the house directly across the laneway from the site. The issue here is not one of development or type of development. Most people in the area, including me, are fully in favour of the site being developed. The issue is one of overdevelopment. And we still consider the revised plans to be an overdevelopment of what's a very small site. There are areas where it's in breach of the code that facilitates this overdevelopment. We engaged Tony Robb at Evolution Planning to prepare a submission. And it doesn't seem like the issues raised in that submission have been addressed in the council's assessment report. The council is concerned about contamination, but we believe that there are other things to be concerned about. I'm not going to repeat the detail in the submission because we'll take it as read, but I'll remind the panel that the floor space ratio exceeds the allowable limit, and this breach of FSR controls contributes to the overdevelopment of the site. The setbacks are still not compliant, which also contributes to overdevelopment. There are also issues with the position of the driveway across from us on Commerce Lane. The gradient of the ramp has not been assessed for headlight glare into our kitchen and dining windows, and the roller door has not been assessed for noise, which is important to us as it's very close to our bedroom. We asked the planning panel to refuse the development not only because of the contamination, but also with regards to impacts on neighbouring dwellings due to headlights, noise with regards to the use of the driveway, including the noise associated with the roller grill.
Greg, I don't know if you can hear me, but you appear to have frozen on your screen and we can't hear you. And now your microphone appears muted.
Yeah. Where did you last hear?
Roller door.
Yeah, you referred to the roller door noise not being taken into account. That was just after the point in relation to headlight glare.
Right. Okay.
And
so I just said, look, the roller door is really important for us because it's right near to our bedroom. And I asked that the panel refuse the development, not only because of the contamination, but also with regards to the impacts on neighbouring dwellings due to headlights, the noise with regards to the use of the driveway, including the noise associated with the roller grill, and the floor space ratios and the setbacks. Was that heard?
yes, we heard all of that. Thank you. Your screen
Okay.
is a bit jittery, the video feed, but the voice feed's working well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll go on mute.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being so articulate and putting that quite briefly. Tony Williams, are you online, please? Oh, yes, Tony, I can hear you. We're in your hands. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and panel members, for giving me the opportunity to speak to item 4.1. I'm speaking on behalf of the residents and owners of 31 Dobroyd Road, located immediately to the west of the application site. I am one of the owners. We would significantly be impacted by the proposed development, as written in our submissions to Council and to the panel prepared by Planning Progress on our behalf. We would like to confirm our support for the recommendation for refusal. However, we have some significant concerns in that the assessment report has accepted multiple breaches of controls that will cause unreasonable harm to our amenity and surrounding environment. We are particularly concerned with the fundamental impact from non-compliant building separation distances and a minimal lot size. In summary, our key concerns: the significant loss of visual and acoustic privacy. The inclusion of privacy screens and planter boxes will not mitigate these impacts. It is non-compliant setbacks, layout, location of the communal outdoor area, terraces, lot size and overdevelopment of the site, which gives rise to the unreasonable impact on amenity and warrants the inclusion of additional refusal reasons. The planter boxes are not within the site boundary, but are located on 31 Dobroyd Road. Planting can't be conditioned and it doesn't thrive in this location. No consideration should be given to the planter boxes as a method of screening. The bulk and scale of the building is excessive on this small site. It's built just 50 millimetres from the boundary in close proximity to our building. The result is an overbearing structure which would overshadow our indoor and outdoor living spaces. The development does not provide sufficient off-street parking. Parking is already limited on the street and the development would have significant impact on the current situation. As the DA is non-compliant with the housing SEP, this should be deemed unacceptable. It is requested that the panel, 1, consider whether the principle of co-living development falls under the housing SEP given the level of non-compliance as detailed in the written submission. 2, add additional refusal reasons to overcome the impacts on the neighbouring amenity and surrounding environment. And 3, should the panel consider approving the proposed development despite the clear impacts raised, it is requested the additional condition include pulling the building further away from the west boundary, removing the terraces serving units 6 and 7, relocate the communal external area further from 31 Dobroyd Road, and ensure fixed privacy screens along all terraces. All technical details of the impacts and why additional refusal reasons are requested are detailed in the written submission, which we request the panel consider. Should you have any queries, I request that the technical planning matters refer in written submission to Planning Progress. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. The next speaker I have is Ian Campbell. Ian, are you online? Can see there's an Ian, there's a guest there, but I can't hear anyone.
Mr. Crofts, it is Ian Cambridge that you're
Oh,
requesting. to
Cambridge,
speak.
sorry, Cambridge, sorry, Ian Cambridge. My apologies. Ian, are you online?
I can phone him through if you would like me to call his mobile.
It's probably a good idea. There is an Ian there, but it's not clear who it is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
I'm having some difficulties with the technology here, I think.
We all do at times, but we can hear you loud and clear. So go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to articulate our opposition. I just say we live in the site opposite the development site, and we've lived here for the past 25 years, and so we've seen what's happened with the adjoining development at 31 Dobroyd. And at the outset, I'd just like to say that we're not opposed to development of the site at all, and we're not opposed to development that might be a co-living proposition. We accept this concept that there's going to be a need for increased density living in Sydney. So we're not opposed to that in any sense, but what we are opposed to is what we consider to be an entirely inappropriate development. And it represents simply an over-density proposal. It's trying to squeeze too much into a very small little piece of land. It is something that was recognised back last year by the Design and Sustainability Advisory Panel meeting. And that's at page 128 of the agenda, where the Design and Sustainability Advisory Panel meeting clearly stated that the application is for a building that is much larger in scale than the surrounding residences. And if you go to page 130 of your agenda, you'll see the recommendation that was made there was for there to be a complete redesign. But what's happened in the year after that hasn't been a complete redesign, but it's been something of an alteration to what we consider to be a fundamentally flawed concept. And I think that was identified, but it hasn't been rectified. There have been some improvements with the revised plans, there's no doubt about that, but unfortunately the fundamental design is flawed, and that's the problem. And the recommendations from the panel from last year haven't in no way been addressed. There hasn't been a complete redesign as was suggested. And what we've seen happen in this process over the last year is rather confusing, because we've seen alteration to the original proposition, but no significant change. And the result is essentially something that just doesn't fit. So we're quite content for there to be some sort of higher density development in this area, but what we've got is fundamentally flawed. Now that leads us to what the planning officer's summations and conclusions are, which are contained in pages 94 and 95 of your agenda. And we think that particularly in respect to the recommendations regarding this clause 4.6 variation that seems to have been now acceptable, it's counterintuitive to what the panel concluded, that is the Design and Sustainability Advisory Panel concluded 12 months ago. It's entirely counterintuitive to say something which is fundamentally needed to be completely revisited has now been adjusted to somehow fit. And that's the problem in an overall sense. That's the major problem. So in terms of the rejection of the proposition, we obviously support the planning officer's recommendation to reject it. But what we would urge is that the rejection of the application include the additional refusal reasons that are included in the submission, the Buckingham submission dated the 15th of May 2023. These are the additional reasons for why it should be refused, because otherwise we're not going to get the fundamental problem fixed. We're still going to keep tinkering with something which is fundamentally flawed. That's our concern. And I just want to finish by saying it's interesting, you look at the Sydney Morning Herald and there's a letter in today's online version which sort of sums things up, and it says, "This is not NIMBYism. The Premier is right on the need to build up, but good design is critical. Good design is critical, and what we've got here doesn't represent good design." Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cambridge. That presentation was the final presentation from objectors. We have Matthew Quattreville on the line representing the applicant. Yes, I can see you, Matthew. Mr. Quattreville, would you like to say anything at this point, or would you prefer to wait for questions and answers, or questions rather, and points of clarification from the panel members?
I'll probably just say a couple of things and then
Certainly
go into the questions and all that. Look, in general, we fully support the assessment officer's report. Obviously, the recommendation of refusal is based in the majority on insufficient documentation, which has been now filtered in to council for the assessment. In relation to contamination, we have now reviewed all the documentation that was provided with the adjoining site at number 31 Dobroyd Road at Balgowlah Heights. We've reviewed the contamination report, the remediation action plan, and also the site audit report. From that, it was clear that there has been no horizontal contamination across into our site. Based on that, and based on the low risk uses of our site as well, being commercial kitchens and offices over the years, it's our opinion that a consent can be granted based on the state policy. And if the panel sort of doesn't agree with that, then we would request that the panel adjourns it, subject to a PSI being supplied to council. So from that, we request that council supports and approves the application. And yeah, look, happy to answer any questions that the panel has.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll now open for any questions from panel members. Panel members, if you've got a question, can you put your hand up for me so I can see? Thank you, Brian. Yes, please.
So Matthew, okay, I want to get this straight. You're asking the panel to approve the application. Is that based on the information that has most recently been provided to the council?
Yes, correct.
Which, am I correct in saying, has not been considered in this assessment report?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And has the council accepted that application? Did you submit it through the portal?
Yes, we have submitted it through the portal now, yes.
With a request that it be accepted to amend the application?
Yes.
So have you got a response from the council? Did they accept it?
Well, not a formal response, no.
Okay. All right. So Well, that's beyond the scope of the panel today to consider that information. So we can only consider the information that's before us and which has been assessed by the council and presented to us.
Mm-hmm.
So on that basis, I'll ask you a question. Have you seen the late submission that was submitted by Karen Buckingham?
Yes, I have.
Have you got any comments in response to that? That'd be helpful for me.
I'll just get it up quickly. But yes, in regards to that, I disagree with her, I guess, additional reasons for refusal. I support the clause 4.6s that we've provided relating to building separation and the minimum lot size. In regards to the planter boxes, that is incorrect. We are not relying on the planter boxes of the adjoining site. If you refer to the amended landscaping plans which were supplied previously to council with the revised architectural plans, there are planter boxes on our site which are proposed. In regards to the building height, the plans have been prepared based on the survey from a registered survey and have been prepared by an accredited architect, which confirmed that the building height complies with the 8.5 metres. So again, we disagree with the so-called lack of information, and I'm unsure how certified height poles would assist that. And in regards to the non-compliances with Manly DCP, they've been adequately addressed throughout the process and also in the assessment officer's report.
Okay, good. Thanks. I just wanted your response to those. It's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
David.
Brian.
Okay, thank you. Jason Perica.
Yeah, hi, I've got a couple of questions. I might just follow up on that. So the additional information you provided isn't before us, as Mr. Kirk mentioned, but did that include a preliminary site investigation or not? I took it from your answer before that you don't think one's necessary.
No, correct. We haven't provided a preliminary site investigation yet.
Right.
The basis of the information which has been supplied to council was just revised documents or addendums to other expert reports such as BCA, accessibility, acoustics and the like.
Right.
Can I just follow up on that for a second? So in terms of the preliminary site investigation, I understand there's no report. Is there, however, a document where you pull together information from the contamination studies from and so on from the adjacent site?
Not yet, but that can be provided.
So that hasn't been provided to council.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason, back to you.
That's okay. Look, I'm just reading out section 4.6 of the resilience and hazard set. And it does say, 4.62 says, before determining an application for consent to carry out development that would involve a change of use on any land specified in section 4, which applies, the consent authority must consider a report specifying the findings of a preliminary investigation of the land concerned carried out in accordance with the contaminated land planning guidelines. So there is a change of use. The SEP applies to this land, so it just seems pretty black and white to me that one's needed. I'm just not sure where you're coming to the alternative conclusion.
Yeah, I'll probably have to agree with you then.
Okay. Look, I've got another question, and so I probably could have asked this of council staff, but I noticed in the report there was some discussion about that not being unanimous support amongst different lot owners, and the strata schemes, 75% I'm aware of. But was there owner's consent granted, including from the body corporate to the lodging of the DA?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, the strata consent was granted with the application.
Right, including the body corporate, as far as you're aware.
Yes,
right.
Correct.
Okay, my other question's about floor space ratio, are you, I know it's put forward as complying with the FSR without any bonuses through the housing SEP. So is the provision that 10% bonus in inverted commas under the housing SEP applies and you're not utilising, or it doesn't apply because it's not just housing, it's a mixed use development? What's your position about FSR?
It's my understanding that the 10%.
But it does say it applies.
Yeah. So look, the
mixed use.
The 10% only relates to development in a zone where a residential flat building is a permitted land use. Yeah. So
you have to comply. You don't get any bonus. And you're pretty close from the calculations in the order of 4 square metres under, or that order. I might be up by a square metre or two, but I did have a look at the FSR calculations, and it did appear that there were areas excluded in the parking level, garbage areas and toilets, that I don't think fit in any of the exclusions, and following some of the court case findings about those sorts of areas, particularly garbage areas and non-storage areas in a basement, even though part of it might. It seems like they should have been included as FSR. A long-winded background to say I would have thought they would be counted as FSR, and that might push you over the FSR limit. What do you say to that? I'm putting you on your spot a bit, but
no, that's fine. Look, I'd have to look into that, but from our interpretation with the plans is that we do comply. So I would have to look into that.
Right. Okay.
Obviously waste areas are excluded if they're in the basement. So I'd have to review that, and it's my interpretation that the toilet would be is sort of a service facility to the retail shop as well, which is an exclusion.
Right. But you think garbage areas and toilets can be excluded if they're in a basement?
Correct.
Right. Okay. That's it for me. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Frank Bush, have you got any questions? Sorry, Frank, your mic is still off.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can hear. No, you've got turned it off again. You turned it on and then off again.
Sorry, my response was that I've got no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, unless there's any more questions from panel members, that's the conclusion of item 4.1. So just checking there's no more questions or points. No. Can I thank all the objectors and also the representative of the applicant for your presentations and also answering questions. This matter will be determined by the panel in a closed session following this public session, and then a public announcement will be made by council in the ensuing days. So once again, thank you very much, and I'll close item 4.1. On the agenda, the next item, which is 4.2, dealing with DA 2022/1128, 38, the Drive Freshwater, has been withdrawn from the agenda, so we won't be dealt with at this meeting. Which now brings us on to item 4.3, 33 Fairlight Street, Fairlight, which relates to demolition works and construction of a residential flat building. Its DA number is DA 2022/0688. I have no speakers on the running sheet. Just checking with you, Heidi, that that's still the case.
That is correct. No registered speakers for item 4.3.
Okay, thank you very much, Heidi. So that brings us to the end of the agenda items for the public component of this local planning panel meeting. So I'd now like to close the public component. Thank you very much for your attendance.